Earth Day is all about commitment. It's about commitment to the most important task of our generation, preserving life on this planet and protecting the ecological system of the Earth against the devastating consequences of a radical change in the relationship between the Earth's environment and human civilization. I challenge all of you here today to sign up in a partnership to take this problem on. States, businesses and their associations, laborers, environmentalists, and Congress all must work together in a committed partnership to make it work.
The end of World War II marked the beginning of the leisure travel phenomenon. With Pan Am's introduction of tourist class in 1948, international travel became a reality for more than just the privileged few. Long-distance leisure travel changed from being a prerogative of the upper classes to a way of life for the masses. In 1958, a transportation revolution took place which changed the world of travel. The introduction of the jet engine on commercial airliners permitted faster, cheaper, and safer air travel. Thanks to the explosion in air travel, tourism has grown in the number of international travelers about 6.2% annually over the past 40 years. In fact, it's the world's largest industry, generating $3.4 trillion in gross output sales in 1994. Many countries have successfully used tourism to climb out of economic doldrums, but tourism isn't always the cure for all that ails a destination. While tourism can create prosperity and development, it can also corrupt the local culture and despoil the environment. Like many businesses, tourism's relationship with the environment has often been one of neglect. Not necessarily by intent, but through ignorance. Over the last 2 decades, the world at large has become more aware of its relationship with the environment. We are now witnessing a dramatic change in how tourism and the environment are coexisting in a positive way. Sustainable development is gaining credibility as an essential approach to achieving development goals without depleting natural and cultural resources. Dr. George Lane, Assistant Director of the Pan American Health Organization, says that man must be at the center of concerns for sustainable development.
Sustainable development in our context means that we, man, must be able to maintain his or her potential for growth and expansion, at the same time not depleting those basic resources that are left with us in trust.
My definition would harken back to our 1916 Organic Act, which called for the wise management of the resources, trying to preserve in perpetuity the integrity of the cultural and natural resources which we manage, as well as providing for the present-day enjoyment by man of those resources. And that, in a sense, is a definition of sustainability. We've had environmental planning. To me, it comes down to responsible use by man of this thing called planet Earth.
Stanley Selengut is the developer of Harmony, a resort on St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This groundbreaking resort exemplifies how a tourism development can be constructed with total sensitivity to the environment.
Just the word sustainability means living within your resources. And philosophically, it becomes a little broader into living in such a way that your children and grandchildren can maintain the same lifestyle and have the same experiences that you have, which means maintaining culture as well as healthy environments.
As a tourism-based economy with an environment that we call the American paradise, we have no choice but to take ecotourism seriously. The Harmony Resort makes the non-debatable proposition that development for tourism can work economically, aesthetically, as well as environmentally.
Sustainable development can only be achieved through a partnership of government, business, the local community, and the tourist. Harmony defines that partnership in action.
I think of Harmony as almost like a lot of little harmonies. It's a harmony or a partnership with the public and private sector. Harmony is a project that came about because of partnership between the National Energy Labs and a Territorial Energy Office, something that is being promoted by US DOE. for the National Energy Labs to turn from defense to domestic solutions. This is an example of that kind of partnership. It's also a partnership, of course, or a harmony of man and nature. And perhaps most importantly, it's a harmony of financing of resorts and building resorts that work, that also protect the environment, and demonstrate that we can build and use spaces that are in harmony with nature.
The development of government policy is the primary step in any tourism plan. Tourism often depletes natural resources, as do industries such as mining or logging. But while those industries can prove dangerous to the environment, tourism in theory should work to improve the environment, as that is what serves as the core of the tourism product. When the tourist spends money on lodging, food, transportation, and other services, businesses in turn spend a portion of that money on goods and services. This respending of that money is referred to as the multiplier effect. When businesses purchase goods and services outside the local economy, the economic benefits of tourism are reduced or leaked. With sustainability as an objective of the tourism market, strengthening linkages between tourism and local sectors is vital. It plugs the leaks.
If you use the resources you have, I think that you have a greater retaining of income you make. When you go away or move away from sustained development, it means you have to depend more on outside resources, which means the dollar turnover is going to be very, very minimal, if at all.
The U.S. Virgin Islands has a program linking farmers to the tourism industry in order to reduce the amount of imported food. As a result, more money stays in the local economy. The goal of sustainability requires the inclusion of diverse groups. On St. John, the National Park Service has been a major player in the creation of harmony.
In 1956, Lawrence Rockefeller bought 2/3 of St. John and donated it to the U.S. National Park Service as a national park. And I say, thank God he did it. Now, back in 1956, there were many who resented it, particularly residents on St. John, because they thought of being disenfranchised. But today, those same persons, be they on St. John or wherever, if they're alive, have appreciated what Lawrence Rockefeller did.
Developer Stanley Selengut created his Maho Bay campground within St. John's National Park in the 1970s. The 114-unit hillside resort of tent cottages has the highest year-round occupancy rate in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Then,
in the fall of 1991, the National Park Service chose us to hold a conference on sustainable design, which hopefully will be implemented throughout our park service. And in participating in this conference, the whole idea that nature is more than plants and animals, it's also the sun and the wind and all the complexities of biodiversity. And I was also amazed to learn that at the advanced stages that solar technology and recycling processes were at, that you could buy solar systems right off the shelf.
that conference served to inspire Selengut to build Harmony, a tourist resort that serves as a laboratory for sustainable development. This small resort is constructed of recycled materials and is energized by sun and wind power.
I have visited that resort, and I am always amazed that someone could take all of the elements that he has taken and produced what I consider perhaps the best balance between the needs of the individual and nature itself, where as a matter of fact it enhances nature from what I've seen. It's right in the middle of a beautiful tropical forest, and the surrounding growth is lush and plush. I can think of no other place or no other development that perhaps can equal what they've done in St. John. And it's been done, again, to some extent, between collaboration between the private and public sector.
The Renewable Energy Center of the Virgin Islands Energy Office provided extensive technical assistance in developing all system specifications, including the panels that powered the construction equipment. The National Energy Labs will develop metering and monitoring devices. Harmony stays in harmony with nature every step of the way. Walkways are elevated so as not to disturb the underbrush. Electrical cables and water pipes are attached to the undersides of those walkways, eliminating the need to dig trenches. These construction techniques restricted the need to clear vegetation and trees were saved in other ways as well.
It's a fairly big beam. This looks like about 3 by 3 by 16, which would take quite a large tree. That goes the whole length of the building, as you can see over there at the edge. But if you look at the end of it, it's made of tiny little bits of scraps of wood, waste wood product, twigs, things that would normally be a total waste product, compressed and bonded together to make a big structural beam.
75% of everything in and around Harmony is made from a recycled product that is sustainable in some way. The cedar siding and roofing in Harmony is made of a composite of waste cardboard and cement that is baked. The material has a 50-year guarantee as opposed to the 20-year guarantees that come with traditional cedar siding. Mats are made from old tires. Inside, tiles are made from ground-up light bulbs and waste clay. All electricity is generated by the sun and wind using solar panels, a windmill, and storage cells. There are no electric bills. Compact fluorescent lights use 1/4 the energy of incandescent lights and last up to 20 times longer. All appliances are energy-saving models, and water-saving techniques are used throughout Harmony. Each room comes equipped with a solar oven. Guests can bake just about anything.
To turn on the electricity in the room, you must put your key into this thing and turn it, and then the energy is turned on in the unit. But the key won't come out of this box unless you turn it and turn off the electricity.
Water conservation is also important at Harmony. All units come equipped with water-saving shower heads and toilets that use only 1.5 gallons per flush. The sewage treatment is handled by a state-of-the-art system recommended by the National Park Service. It's a retention system where the sewage goes through various tanks, getting cleaner each time until it's chlorinated and comes out like sparkling clean spring water. Guests learn all about the products and equipment used at Harmony through a computer that is installed in every room. They have the opportunity to state their opinions as potential consumers of these products. The system, funded by the Virgin Islands Energy Office, has interactive software that introduces the supportive surroundings and monitors use of water and power. Clearly, Harmony has set out to be a blueprint for sustainability. But can the lessons learned at Harmony be used elsewhere?
You don't have to be a wealthy developer to do what I did at Harmony, to develop your land in an aesthetic way that could be really appealing to tourists.
And Harmony can be used as a guide when renovating existing resorts. Stanley Selengut is living proof that developers need not be enemies of the environment.
6 years ago, this government initiated what is now referred to as sustainable development and its companion, ecotourism. We have been pro-business, but we're determined to improve the quality of life for today's residents and tourists without destroying the natural resources that we ought to leave for future generations.
Environmentally sensitive development is not only possible, but can be extremely profitable.
Stanley was very important. Stanley demonstrated that you can do things like this and you can make money. You can make lots of money. You can be very successful. He demonstrated that here is a market niche that heretofore has not been exploited, and he was clever enough to go after that market niche, and Harmony is booked full for a year and a half from now. And as you know, Maho does not advertise at all. It is basically word of mouth. And he has found a way to not only be sort of the environmental ecotourism guru, but he has found a way to make a lot of money.
Awareness of the environment is not the sole province of Stanley Selengut and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Around the world, there are examples of sustainable development in action. In Costa Rica, where the vast majority of tourism is nature-based, tourism is the #1 source of revenue. In Ecuador, earnings from the Galapagos National Park support the country's entire park system. As a result, these countries and others are working hard to preserve the integrity of the environment because it draws tourists. Private industry has also seen the green light. Many large travel companies are now using their purchasing power to promote development of environmentally sound products and practices. Hotel chains are introducing efficient lighting, solar water heaters, and occupancy sensors. Intercontinental Hotels set an industry precedent in the early 1990s by launching a comprehensive environmental initiative that focuses on reducing, recycling, and reusing materials. Intercontinental's model serves as the basis of the International Hotels Environmental Initiative, an industry-wide awareness campaign sponsored by the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. Airlines are dealing with several environmental challenges of their own, including recyclable refuse and noise pollution. American Airlines has set a standard in the industry for recycling. Since 1991, American flight attendants have collected more than 1.5 million pounds of aluminum for recycling. But any sustainable tourism program must include the local community. Because of the interdependence between the tourism product and the local community, locals must be a part of the planning process. The tourism infrastructure must be gently interwoven within the social, economic, and environmental resources of the community. As these resources are improved for the tourists, they will also be improved for the local community. Cultural integrity must also be preserved.
Sustainability has as much to do with maintaining cultural integrity as it does with preserving the ecology and the natural systems. And every region has some indigenous art forms, and what ecotourism does is it ties into indigenous assets.
For tourism to be a truly beneficial economic strategy for a destination, it must be dedicated to improving the quality of life of the people who live and work there. The final participant in any tourism partnership is the tourist. In many ways, the tourist leads the way for sustainable development programs. If the consumer demands it, someone will build it. The demand for environmental or ecotourism is at an all-time high. According to a survey by the U.S. National Tour Association, ecotourists will spend more for a trip than a traditional tourist. These tourists respect the products offered.
The old line about it makes a very small footprint on this very, I would think, this delicate terrain. It's a very small footprint. You hardly notice that it's here. I bet from a distance it would be hard to see. From the vegetarian cuisine to the way in which the place was built, we're very appreciative of it.
Despite their appreciation, tourists often need to be educated in the ways of sustainability. They must engage in activities that are appropriate to an area. They must pay fair value for the use of resources, and they must respect the local lifestyle and culture.
We're marketing it as an educational experience, and if you notice in our brochure, it doesn't speak of a room rate, it speaks of a tuition, because we want the people to really realize this is a learning experience where they're supposed to contribute to the whole experiment of it.
The resort also wears the hat of Research and Education Center through an effort of Harmony's Sustainable Development Education Foundation and the Energy Office. That collaboration is called CREATE, Collaboration for Renewable Energy, Environmental Activities, Training and Education. There will be long-term monitoring and analysis of the performance of these energy systems in a Caribbean environment. Visitors will record their comments about life off the grid. And we will be feeding back to both the tourism and the energy industries just how these systems perform and what the consumers prefer.
When the tourist, the community, the government, and the businesses work in harmony, sustainable tourism can truly become more than a buzzword. It can become a valuable tool in creating a tourist experience that will contribute to the well-being of the planet for generations.
This is the most favorite place I've ever been to in my life.